Hi, it's Matt here. I just want to talk to you about moving to the Philippines or looking to live in the Philippines full time or even part of the year. The first thing I want to bring up is the cost of living is nowhere near what people say online. Um, I have lived at the lower scale. When I first come out here, I was living on about 15,000 pesos a month at that time. This is one of the annoying things about the Philippines. Bloody noise all the time. 86, it was about 86, I remember right, the peso. So, 86. So it's 15,000 divided by 86 roughly. That's about 174 pounds. And for the dollar, 15,000, the dollar is about 54 back then, so divided by 54 is about $277. Now you think, well, that's cheap. Back then, though, life was a lot more simple. I had a one-bedroom apartment, and there was just me and my wife at the time. Now, the first thing with that is a one-bedroom apartment. The electric costs, if you're not running aircon, could be like the equivalent of, what would that be, about $20 a month. But as soon as you switch an aircon unit on, you can easily double or treble the cost of your power. So, with a single apartment, it was reasonably cheap. As a couple. As soon as you have kids, tuition and costs like that start shooting things through the roof because the cost of a basic school is around anywhere between 3,000 and 10,000 a month, depending on what school your kids are going to. Then you have all the shots for medication. Kids get a lot more sick here than they do in the West, or they seem to. I think it's primarily there's a lot of extra dust and toxic air here due to the large number of fires that people burn, either to get rid of all that plastic they pile up everywhere, or the smoke from their vehicles, as there's little control over the production of emissions. Okay, they have an emission test, but you can literally just go to the end of the road here, and you could find more vehicles that have problems with emissions than don't have, and they've all been tested, allegedly. The next problem I would say from that perspective is that as life goes on, kids get more expensive, same as the West, but there's no government assistance here. It's not like you're working and getting some government funding to help you with your children. It's all out of your pocket. Now, I'm going to go back to as if you're just a guy. Now, if you're just a guy here and you're looking to live on your own, then the first thing you're going to need is an apartment. Now, an apartment this size, this is actually my office, it's pretty small. There's another room next door and a nice bathroom. Something like this would cost you at least 5,000 to anywhere up to about 10,000 per month. And if you're actually in Manila, it could be as much as 20,000. Because this is about the size of a condo. It's a bit bigger than a lot of condos actually. So if you imagine $20,000 of $500 a month just for your rent, and what you find is the more expensive your rent is because of a better location, generally your electric is higher. Because it's like here, I'm in Mindanao, which is just outside of Cebu City. My electric is cheaper than somebody who lives in Cebu City because there seems to be, every town sets their own tariffs. The Philippines is notorious for corruption, and I'm sure that's part of the issue, is they have to pay different people different tariffs because they're filtering some cash into people's pockets. Also, you got the expense. Well, it's actually the reverse, because if you think about it, the further you go, you think it'll get more expensive, but actually gets cheaper. I've been to Negros Island, which is far, far south of me, which has a lot smaller population, but it's mainly a farming-based community there. What you find there is that food seems about 30% cheaper, but so does the power, and literally everything else is just a lot cheaper. That's one of the things you've got to do if you're going to look at living here, is actually spend time looking around, because different cities, different islands, they're all different pricing. Okay, in the West it's pretty usual, like for the UK, for example, around London's expensive to live, but the north of Scotland isn't. But that's based on things like economics and business. A lot of the stuff in the Philippines often doesn't have anything to do with what I would call economics. There's many things here that don't make sense. But anyway, that's the first thing, is the apartment's going to be costing you a lot more than you think. Because the phrase that used to come up a lot when I was first looking at living in the Philippines, and I've been here over 6 years, getting on 7 years now, is the fact is that live like a king is the phrase, and the fact is it's nowhere near that. If I said my expenses are somewhere between 40 and 80,000 pesos a month, which is $1,000 to $2,000 a month, I know for many that puts me outside their pensions already. But realistically, that is my costs. And I do live the same sort of lifestyle I would in the West, but I still have my same frustrations that would affect whether I was living on 40,000 or 10,000 a month. One of the main ones being quality of equipment. If you buy something here, it's generally shockingly bad quality. I'm talking about stuff in the malls. You can get some good stuff, but you'll pay over the odds that you normally would in the UK. But for example, I bought this stuff called American Standard, I think it's called. Let me double check. American Home. Oh, camera's over here. American Home. Spectacular quality. This is an induction cooker. I got it home and it didn't work. I also bought a microwave at the same time. That lasted 1 week. And they adjust the warranties accordingly. Some of them have 24-hour warranties, some have 7 days, some have 3 weeks, some of them have no warranty whatsoever. That is the sort of quality that you expect and get all the time in the Philippines. Shockingly bad. If you're buying high value items, I advise buying them on the way in, or getting somebody to bring one for you rather than getting them here. Counterfeiting is very common, and in the malls, especially the certain malls here that are notorious for counterfeit clothing, it's everywhere. Same with DVDs and pretty much everything. That's probably one of the big things that the Chinese influencers brought with them here, counterfeiting everything. But the other side of that being is your electric bill will increase on the size of your building. I think I brought this up earlier, but when I say that, I'm not talking about it just going up in price. They actually increase the charge depending on how much electric you use. So if you're a low user, you get cheaper electric. If you're a high user, you might find that your next door neighbor is actually getting cheaper electric than you. Bizarre, but it's true. And going off grid, getting solar panels, overinflated prices, and with the quality of everything else, I'd be a bit wary about doing it. Because obviously it's a big investment, and to find it doesn't work isn't exactly what you'd be looking for. At the same time, the other side of this coin is labor is cheap. The construction I had done here, the guys cost around, what's that, about $5 a day. And there's different skill sets, so some are a little bit more, some are a bit less. But the fact is, that is one of the positive sides. The labor is cheap, but everything else is relatively expensive. Also, clothing here seems to get damaged very easily. This shirt is actually only a couple of months old. I just noticed the sleeves ripped, the collars ripped. This is pretty common here. Either this has been damaged by bleaching with our laundry woman, or it just fell apart. Generally, these things are accepted. I have at least 20 or 30 of these shirts, so what I normally do is rip this one up and I'll use another one. Now, security-wise, crime here, I don't believe the statistics, but at the same time, people generally don't bother foreigners too much. Primarily because foreigners move in their own circles. And also, people that are normally attacking each other here are motivated by political, family, or greed, or all three. So, generally, the foreigners don't have any connection to those, which is why I would say the crime rate for criminals isn't as high as it could be. Crime rate against foreigners isn't as high as it could be. There's too much other stuff going on for people to take too much notice. At the same time, I would say I'm a bit more cautious here than at home than I would be in the UK, but I find it's much safer here to actually be out and about in the cities, etc., than downtown in the UK on a Friday night. Most people here are friendly, even when they're drunk. Their friends will divert them off. There's no real issues with security. Robberies on the house are quite a big risk, but even that is contained, as you can see here, pretty standard Philippine windows. They've got metal bars. My door locks are not standard door locks. They're, you can see it behind me. Let me lean that way. They're actually high security locks I brought in from the UK. On top of that, we have lighting, premier lighting all the time, CCTV, and we still had some chickens stolen last month. For my father-in-law, they have some fighting cocks, but they had one stolen. But there's been like one stolen every few months. We know who's doing it, but anyway, that's another issue. If you like loud music, videoke, barking dogs, roosters 24/7, then the Philippines is for you. It's quite quiet outside. Let's see what we can hear. It's unusually quiet because I'm actually recording something. When I say recording something, I actually try to record the noise outside. If I'm trying to do a normal recording, there you go, there was one rooster. Now the thing with roosters is you'll get one crow, and then the next one will respond to it, then the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. And the average household must have at least 3 roosters here. I'm not on about in this area, I'm talking about in general. There's actually a guy at the back here who's got over 80. So that's that side of things. Transportation is cheap, but in the last year I know at least 8 people have been robbed on jeepneys. The pickpocketing is pretty good here. You won't notice they've robbed you blind until you try to get your wallet about 10 minutes after you got off your jeepney, which is the small buses they have here. There you see the roosters are coming alive now. What else is there to really talk about? Hospitals, I wouldn't trust them with my life, and I literally say that. I found when I've been there visiting people, there has always been people being brought out dead. I'm sure it happens in the UK all the time, but not every time you're in the hospital. You know, they wheel them down from the wards, you know, just sheeted over in the same way they would, like as if they were taking a patient to operations. I also had one of my feet cut here with a glass blade right to the bone. They didn't give me enough, what do you call it, sedative for the to numb it, so I felt the needle going in and out from my foot, and also them holding the cut open to check it for broken glass. Needless to say, I took out the stitches myself when it was ready to do, because it was a lot less painful doing it myself than some clerk. I couldn't call them a nurse or a doctor. The standard was abysmal. But the other thing you find here is they treat hospitals like a business. And what I mean is, like when my wife was in labor, they tried to stop me leaving the hospital. Now, I've never come across this before. Basically, my wife would been in labor, come out, and was in a private room, and I went home to get some stuff, and the hospital was freaking out because I didn't sign out from the hospital. I never signed in. I'm not the patient. And on top of that, you pay a deposit. We'd already put the equivalent of, I think it was like 30,000 pesos there. 30,000 pesos. That today's money is $700. I'd actually already paid in cash $700 deposit, and they're still following me around as if I owe them money. On top of that, you pay for the medication as you need it. So while you're sat there, here's a prime example. With labor, they come out of the labor room, and they'll say, "Oh, your wife needs water," and then you have to go to the pharmacy, buy a bottle of water, and bring it back. Then, if they need medication, they will come and say, "Here, you need to go and buy this medication," and then you come back. That is the Philippines. Now, for me, I find this completely bizarre, because what happens if somebody has money but doesn't have access to it? For example, I was stuck in traffic. To let somebody die? I would like to say no, but I would also say I know a lot of people here with amputations from motorcycle accidents and things where I don't think they needed to lose their limbs. I know people that have died from diarrhea, children. So healthcare is something people often overlook, but here you can get very sick very quick, and often things that are treatable, they don't treat properly. They don't treat to a Western standard. The hygiene level is often lower, and I had a friend with an appendix, had his appendix out and had an infection. He ended up booking into a hotel that was near the hospital because of the hygiene levels in the hospital he was staying at, because he was worried about contamination after just coming out of surgery. This is the Philippines. It is a developing nation. Let's make a new word for third world country. But if you can live within these headaches, boundaries, whatever you want to call them, life could be okay. Beer is cheap. You can buy a beer for 65. It's about 65 pesos a liter, which is 65. It's about $1.50 a liter. You then have brandy, about the same price, a liter of brandy, and other alcohol. Cigarettes are cheap. So alcohol and cigarettes are cheap. If you're a heavy drinker and want to pass your life away here, getting wasted every day, it's achievable. It's cheaper than food. But if you want, if you want good food, you're gonna struggle. Depend on your budget. Most of my food I actually import. We have friends in the UK, and when I'm abroad, I bring lots and lots of food. I ship food ahead of me coming back to the country, because things like, say, Fray Bentos pies is something I like, but I cannot get here. Things like Vinto and barley water, stuff from the UK, tea bags, things like that are very difficult to source. And generally, if you're out this way, which is a bit further out the city, even the restaurants are very limited. Pizza is abysmal, and I think that's about all we have, unless you like seafood. There's some great seafood here, but mainly things cater for the local market, which means like the local restaurant here, which is pretty big, is AE Barbecue. It's got franchises all over the place. They're either franchised or owned. I might be wrong there. It could be owned. But the fact is, those stores sell seafood, and once you've been to a few fiestas, you'll start to see there's a pattern of what people eat, because everything is pork, pork, pork. There might be some fish if there is like somebody like me going where they know I don't eat pork, but generally it's pork, rice. If it's cockfighting, it might be chicken feet, but it's very simple, bland food. There is some nice stuff. Chicken adobo is quite nice. Also like sisig, which is another pig dish, which is basically pig's face, ears, and other nice parts, which is rather tasty, but at the same time not exactly the healthiest thing to be eating. Because the big thing you have is if you're not eating local food, your budget will suffer severely. Because you can get like a portion of rice for, I don't know, 7 pesos or something. But if you wanted fries, then you're going to have to go into the city, go to somewhere like SNR and buy a big pack of fries. Which also means you then need a fridge to store it in, and you get the picture. But I mean, SNR, just mentioning that, SNR recently arrived here. Well, I say recently, in the last couple of years. They've actually added a lot of food that we didn't have before. It's not spectacular, but when you had very little before, it's like an amazing jump in technology. So there is some good stuff for SNR, but that crappy convection oven and the cooker and the microwave, they both come from SNR. So yeah, the quality is just as shocking with some of the stuff there. And the warranty was 1 week. Right, I just can't be bothered to take the stuff back. I did take the oven, the hot back though. I took it back already and replaced it on the last shopping trip. But then we got back and then the microwave broke. So it's 1 week is 1 week per microwave or some other electrical household goods isn't exactly what I call acceptable when I'm buying goods. And what else could I say? I would advise, if you're going to move here, get a motorbike and do most of your traveling on motorbikes. There's 2 reasons I do it. Firstly, I like traveling around and seeing what everybody's doing and going to locations which are can be a headache like bus or other vehicles. But also, you're not going to get robbed, because if your stuff's secure on you and you got nothing dangling, nobody's going to bother you. These are very key things for keeping safe. Because that's what I would say here, is you have to be very cautious and just think about what you're wearing, what clothing you have on. Have you got your camera dangling out your bag at your back, because they'll just cut the strap off it and steal your camera. Those sort of things, you think, oh, it won't happen to me. Believe me, I said that to a friend of mine. He was going to buy a new iPhone, and I said, don't bother. Just get a cheap phone, because when you're out and about, it's very likely to get stolen. And on the way to the mall to buy the phone, somebody stole his wallet. So after that, he did buy a cheap phone. The other thing was he had actually taken my advice, but having his wallet stolen on the way to the mall actually proved my point. What else can I say? The Philippines, on a positive point, I've gone down the route of why I wouldn't want to come here, but I'm already here, obviously. I come before the prices shot up. But most of the guys here come here for the women, although most of them won't admit it. But the reality is, there's a lot of guys here, which I call in their second life, where they're already in their, what do we call it, elderly gentlemen that are with much younger women. It's not a social circle I enjoy moving around in, and generally I don't bother. But there is also a lot of expats where their wives are of a similar age. It all depends on what sort of lifestyle you want. Whether I agree with those that are over 60 with a 19-year-old girl, most people that know me know my exact thoughts on it. At the same time, somebody that's just here for here for a bit of a life change, like a bit like 4-hour work week type of mentality. Then, if they're in their 30s and 20s, 30s, and dating somebody 19, 20s, so what? Who cares? But the thing is, the women are extremely easy to find here, which is one of the reasons that many people come here. When I say find, I don't mean like you just like grab them from the street. It's like you'll get approached by women here. I recently stop contacting me on Facebook because I've had about 20 women contact me in the last month. Now the thing is, my profile pic's actually got me and my son, and then down the side of my Facebook it says I'm married. So, but they still, hi, are you single? Are you available? No, I'm not. Don't bother me. But they're accessible. Most women are accessible. I wouldn't say it's a classic. So I've heard some people say, "Oh yeah, but it was a woman that was from a better family than you would have problems like meeting them." Blah blah blah. I don't think so. I know a lot of women here that come from wealthy families, and generally just people that are looking for somebody will look for somebody. It's got nothing to do with status. The people are normally grumbling about the types of women some of these guys meet. I grumble about it because of the age thing. I'm not really caring what the guys do. They're not really my problem. But the issue being, well, the issue is age, but also they're not normally with people that have a low education level. But it doesn't mean all of them do. There's many guys I know here with smart women, business women, women in their second marriage after being a widow. What I call normal couples. I think that's the best way to put it. There's normal couples as well as these strange couples. But ultimately, I like being here because it's like now. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm sat here with my window open. Nobody's bothering me. My door, as you can see, is wide open. I've got no security issues. Yes, I have bars on my windows and locks on the doors, but generally it's when I'm out that there's a security issue. But here in my area, I don't really have the same issues that many other expats have because nearly this whole area is related to my wife in some way. there's not really a security problem, except that I just like things to be secure, because every now and again you get scavengers and people coming from the outside areas, which then have, while they're carol singing or whatever they're up to, they have a look around to see what's available. So if your gate's open, you might find that you left some tools outside that might be gone the next time you go out there. So yeah, security is not really an issue. But like I said, it's how you present yourself. If you look like you've got too much money or something, or a lot of jewelry, then you may be bringing unwanted attention. I find Philippine people generally nice. Doesn't matter what level of society either. I spent time with people that locally, people worry about me talking to them because they're seen as being very poor and of a criminal background, which I don't think they're actually criminals, I just think they're poor. And then I've also met a lot of people such as police, government officials, and some wealthy people here as well. And I have not had any issues with any of them. And I think some of the problems that expats face is how they present themselves. Like, for example, I won't go out with this huge hole in my shirt. It's just that I was doing a workout earlier, and I just put the shirt on when I got out of the shower. And it's coming down here, I've noticed a big hole in it. But yeah, generally nobody is really a problem. I know some people complain about the corruption and things like that, but that's normally business associated, which if you're just an expat coming here to live, move, maybe work online or do something, nobody's going to bother you. Most of the problems that I found for expats are associated with the types of business they're doing. For example, the big money businesses like OFWs, overseas Filipino workers, if you're sorting out visas and things for those, then you're getting into high-risk areas because there's a lot of money involved. With around 10 million people overseas, that little niche market, people try to control. But I just think what else we've got to cover. The exchange rates were something that badly affected me, but at the same time I went off abroad and come back and offset it that way. But when I originally come here, it was somewhere between 86 and 98, and it's been down to 62 to the pound, in the same way a lot of Americans have felt it when I remember them saying, well, it'll never drop below 50, and now it's like hovering in the 40s most of the time. So the reality is, it's not as cheap as it could be. It's not going to stay as cheap as it is now, because we've just had that huge typhoon, and the first thing the government, I say government companies because it's the same people that control the government that control most of these companies. They're not going to be wanting to spend their money when they can be taking it off us. So I think there's a lot of cost increases coming, which are probably going to cripple the economy a bit, which might in turn actually sort of help the inflation issue that is tied with the exchange rates. But beyond that, I would say if you budget about $1,000 a month, I think that would be my minimum these days. I wouldn't really want to be living below that. I think that about covers everything. If you've got any questions, though, just feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I'll get back to you. This is Matt from tropicalpenpals.com. Okay, thank you.